Good evening and welcome to another edition of Friday Night Magpie Live, an FA Cup special. This one off to Brackley we go on Saturday in front of the nation. Network coverage on BBC for those of us that can't make the trip down to Brackley. How important to you is the FA Cup this year? Very heartening to hear Martin Patterson's interview this year. Spoke about earlier today. Spoke about his previous managers, Eddie Howe and Sean Dyche and Tony Pulis among them, who he said all were desperate to win the FA Cup. And as far as Martin is concerned, it's the most important domestic cup competition in the world. I think it's fairly safe he's going to treat this properly. Suspect there will not be wholesale substitutions unless we're several goals in front. The bad news, Rod McDonald, it was confirmed today by Martin, done a hamstring when he went over last week and had to come off in the first half of that victory and the 3 points. He'll be out for, in Martin's words, a few weeks. Good news, though, is that Lucas Ness, nearly called him Elliot Ness again, Lucas Ness is fit and we will be expecting him to be in the heart of the Notts defensive line tomorrow. Matty Platt is coming on well. Martin said they hope to be able to get him out on the pitch in the not too distant future. So that's good competition for places. Fixtures, confirmation from the club today. We're not going to be missing games on international break this time. The Monday night Sky game at Cheltenham is staying Monday night, and likewise the Harrogate home game on the Saturday the 15th also stays as a 3 o'clock kickoff. Notts have been informed. They tend to have advanced discussions with the various national FAs as to who is going to be in the squad and who not. And Notts have communicated today that only their young keeper, Milai Perrott, has been called up. So that means Jody Jones is not on Maltese duty, neither is Alassane Jatta, and neither is Jacob Bedo on Grenada duty. So those games will go ahead as planned. All this and more, what else would you like to discuss on our show tonight? Brought to you in association with the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation and also JH Accountants. Just to finally put to bed, this time last week we had Raddy on stage. I know a lot of you were there. It was a great night. I've had a message from Raddy in the last couple of days and I'll read it out. Going back, all was absolutely perfect. The show for you organised, Phil Lafbury, was a very nice person. We talked all the way to the airport. Phil is a big Notts fan. He chauffeurs the brothers around when they come up to Nottingham. Only the best for Raddy when we were organising it. Raddy says, obviously, you know, I've had a hip operation this week. Now, Paul, you need 2 to 3 trainings and you will be able to play the next game for Notts. I wish. My next trip to Nottingham will be when Notts are promoted to the Championship and the Premier League. No jokes, please. You will arrange that for me. I will gladly arrange that for you if it comes to fruition in either of our lifetimes. Anyway, keep in touch. I just want again to express my thanks to everybody connected with Notts County, all the supporters for coming out on the event, and to yourself for welcoming me and my family to Nottingham. We had a wonderful time. Regards, Raddy. So Raddy now back in Serbia. Right, first thing, failed fitness test. That's me. Thank you for all your messages regards the hip operation. You may be able to see just in the background the pair of crutches there. I'm still on them at the minute. And I did have a word with the surgeon. I had the op done on Tuesday at the park. Everyone was very helpful and very accommodating. For those of you of a medical mind, it was an anterior, minimally invasive hip replacement. So I've got a bit of titanium in my right hip now to go with all the metal and the plates with the broken left arm. So yeah, I will be setting off airport detectors when I'm fit again. Thank you for all your messages. Thank you for all the lovely offers to give me a lift, to Trevor and Chloe, to Richard and many others who offered to give me a lift, and also to Iris and Malcolm. I was looking at going on the supporters coach. I think it's just going to be a bit too much, if I'm honest with you. If it had been home, I would have been there. It's a bit gutting. I think it would have been about a number 189 in terms of grounds that I've watched knots on. But for once, as I'm now in my 60s, I'm going to use a tad of common sense. And of course, the game is on BBC Two. But once again, thank you for all your messages. Right, what have we got on the message boards this evening? Ian Hayward, Spotter's Badge, first on. Bud Chatwin, evening all. Hope the app went okay, Paul. We don't want to bring in a substitute host who's not up to full steam. I'm sure the substitute would be infinitely better. But other messages. Bud continues. Ness did a great job last week, and it was great to see we have cover with Matty Platt coming back to full fitness. Royston says, evening, Paul and flock members. How about this? Notts and Peterborough both win, and we get each other in the second round. It's written in the stars. Colin Metcalf. Afternoon or evening, sorry, fellow pies. If I'm not mistaken, we allowed more subs in the cup, so full strength for me and go for it. I really, excuse me, want to be in that draw on Monday, and I suspect, Colin, those sentiments after, I think it's one time in 12 years we've got beyond the second round. I think we all want to have a little bit of progression this year in the cup. Bud Chatwin confirms 9 subs are allowed, and we can use 5. Ian Cooksey, quick question for all. As Peterborough moved, Luke's reason for going to Swansea was to be nearer his family in South Wales, yet Peterborough is further away than Nottingham. Yeah, to be fair, Ian, I'm not sure I totally buy into that one. I think he'd said that the reason he hadn't moved to Swansea was because he was nearer to his family. But one of the factors, or one of the pluses, was that he would be closer to his family. I think most professional football people view geographical location as an occupational hazard. And I'm sure, you know, he did extremely well for us, and I'm sure we all wish him the very, very best at Peterborough. Steve Geldard, evening all. Hope op went okay, Paul. Thank you for the Raddy night last week. It was brilliant. Tim Watchorn, FA Cup will be a welcome break from the league. I'm looking forward to it. Hope it's not a banana skin. Roy Wilson. Yes, the ongoing debate about Hayden Green and a commercial sponsorship of the Hayden Green family stand now taking precedent. Roy says, I think the club should name the ground the Hayden Green Stadium. Not to recognise the man who saved the club, quite simply, is not on. Julie, how's the hip? It's a tad painful, but we'll get there, Julie. Greza Maxwell, hamstrings are 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, they can be nasty, Greza. I know you used to play for Cavaliers or whoever it was on Sunday mornings. They grade them these days, don't they, between grade 1 to grade 3 in terms of severity. Can be tricky. I thought it was interesting when Martin, it was an excellent interview if you've not had a chance to listen to it yet, did his press conference today, and he spoke how he was tough on the players when it came to fitness, that he worked, that they devised plans to work them hard to be as match ready as they could. And I thought, you know, I thought it was very, very good how he explained it. And I think the intimation was that he works the players hard, takes them to the edge, gets them as physically fit as possible. And during the winter months, it may be it may be that we suffer one or two more. I kind of got that the impression from him. But he wants players when they're out on the pitch to be kind of right on the edge, and clearly that would be, for instance, very different to last year, when we were having subs based on what we thought might happen to a player. And the reality was, I think we had more injuries last year at this stage of the season than we've had this year so far. So I thought it was an interesting interview. Finn says, a bit disappointed we haven't sold out for tomorrow, but with the late kickoff and being on TV, it's not too surprising. Does anyone know how many we've sold? Yeah, it's all been a little surprising, hasn't it, or confusing with the sale of tickets. I believe Ticketmaster, the company that handles all of Knott's ticketing operation, they had some glitch which meant they had to be taken off sale for a while. Then they came back on sale, and then they went off on sale as early as Wednesday this week. And I know a lot of Notts fans were quite worried they might not be able to get a ticket. Don't know how many we've got left. Don't know whether we'll end up selling on the day through the back door. But yeah, I would have thought we would have sold out, if I'm honest with you. But I'm sure we'll have a big following there, and I'm sure it'll be an excellent occasion. The magic of the cup and all that. Evening from Richard Elvian. Greza Maxwell, the $6 million man, was made out of titanium. Was he really, Greza? I'm not sure I feel $6 million. I don't feel $6 at the minute, let alone 6 million. Ian Cooksey, the physiotherapy will now be key to recovery for you. I wish you well on your recovery. Yeah, I'm doing all the exercises, doing them all up and down. Yeah, excuse me. Chris Gosling, at least you won't need your mate's dodgy fire stick tomorrow night, Paul. No, network BBC. It's good. It's good. I think it's a good chance for us to show the nation what we're about. Wish you a speedy recovery, says Dave Hartshawn. Ian Cooksey adds with regard to his comments about Luke Williams, I don't blame anyone for wanting to progress in their career. Yeah, look, professional football, as you well know, Ian, is a very, very cutthroat business. I think it's not a bad move for him. Dara is quite demanding. They do tend to try and play a decent style of football. I guess what will be interesting is that he's going to be fighting, effectively this year, he's fighting a relegation battle, isn't he? Nothing else, really. Fifth bottom will be judged a success, I am sure. Dave Hartshawn, why all the hassle re the Hayden Green stand? Notts have already said it's been agreed with the family and will continue to be Hayden Green stand after the term of sponsorship. I'm not sure that's 100% correct, Dave. But I know I think it's fair to say it has caused quite a lot of anxiety and disappointment among the fan base, which of course was why the club, within 24 hours of the original statement, made a further statement to say that they were going to enter into further discussions, which I think is the right thing to do. Lippy Jane, I definitely need a new hip if you are doing well sitting up and moving about. Yeah, they're reckoned to be very good. At the minute, I'm 3 days in, Lippy Jane. So, yeah. We'll see where we get to, but I'm going to try and step it up next week if I can. Gazalee, congratulations to Mrs. Greza Maxwell on her wedding anniversary. Chris Gosling, I really liked Martin's presser earlier today and the clear respect he's going to show this competition. Finn, a win tomorrow and Martin must be up there for Manager of the Month. The curse of Manager of the Month. Ian Cooksey. Yeah, I did pick this up, Ian. I'll tell you a little story in a minute. Ian says, RIP, rest in peace to Colin Addison today. First team coach at Notts in the 1970s. Indeed he was. And it's only about 4 to 5 years ago, I saw Colin and just had a little chat with him. Um, Newport were one of his clubs at Newport, and I can't remember how we got started chatting. And we were talking about pre-season training. Colin was a player at Derby. Trained at Notts, played at Forest, and I was telling him my first memories of Notts, seeing the players, was when they used to train on Colin Woods under Jimmy Cyril and come up the big hills. And Colin told me a story that as at Forest used to train there as well as Notts. And I didn't know this, but Derby County, when they were winning league titles, Dave Mackay, Brian Clough, used to come over in a bus from Derby to Collick Woods on the edge of Snetton, overlooking the racecourse, and they would do their pre-season up and down Collick Woods 2 or 3 times in pre-season. And I then found some old photographs of all these Derby stars, First Division stars, Championship winners, lumbering around Collick Woods, which I thought was quite bizarre. But yes, rest in peace, Colin Addison, passed today. I believe he was 85. He was part of that coaching setup at Notts, I believe, when Ronnie Fenton was here and Mick Jones was here. Colin Metcalf. The more I hear Martin Patterson talk, the more I'm warming to him. I think he's doing a great job with our squad. I hope he gets a good say in any January signings to give him the best chance of success. I think that's a very salient point, Colin. Andy Easom, rest in peace to our former assistant Colin Addison, much loved at the City Ground as a player and at Derby County in the baseball ground. Greza Maxwell, I should be out with the wife celebrating my wedding anniversary, but I'm watching this on the telly. There's a man who's got his priorities right, Greza? Evening all from NCFC World. Lippy Jane. I'm catching up now with all the messages, so feel free to send another batch over. I still want Matt Jarvis on the pitch. Surely in the next 2 games we should see him. Gaza Lee replies, Jarvis's best chance will be Tuesday against Manchester United. Yeah, so just talking a bit more generally about the FA Cup then, I think it was crystal clear, it couldn't be more clear from the interviews with Martin today, that he is treating this competition and the game at Brackley every bit as importantly as any and all 46 EFL League 2 games this season. And I think that is a refreshing development, if you like. Look, no club ever goes into a game not wanting to win it. But as Mark Stallard is fond of telling us, it's a game of fine margins. And if you make 7 changes, yes, it's an opportunity for those players to impress. But the reality is managers don't normally make 7 changes for a league game, do they? So I would be expecting Notts to field a full strength team, or as near as is humanly possible. No McDonald. I'd be expecting Nest to be playing, and I wouldn't really be expecting too many other changes at all from the 11 last week. And I think that's brilliant. The reality is that 99% of the population of the UK, when they're watching it on the BBC 2 it's on, they will all be wanting Brackley to win. They'll all be wanting Brackley to go in front, get a bit of the siege mentality going. And I'm sure Martin's messages will be, don't let them get a foothold in the game. Let's kill them off early. Let's control the game. We are the professional football club, but these things can be tricky. And I think it might have been the BBC reporter that was drawing the analogy or referring back to Martin at Huddersfield on the coaching staff when Huddersfield lost that game. Was it at Tamworth, which was on national television? I'm not sure if Hayden Hollis scored in that one. So he's kind of been on the wrong end of giant killing acts, as well as playing for clubs trying to get to Wembley under the likes of Tony Pulis, Sean Dyche. So he's kind of experienced it all. Let's and he was saying that they help him formulate. He tries to improve every time. Um, but for me, you can never prejudge a result. But I certainly do not foresee us um, succumbing in a manner that we might have done in recent years. Shrewsbury was a horror show with those three defensive howlers, wasn't it? Peterborough for me was a very poor show in the way that we went up. I know we were playing a team in a high division, and of course, what happens? They get Everton in the next round. Sod's law, isn't it? So, and the way Martin was talking today, he kind of seems to share a lot of those sentiments. Let's do our very best to get through. Let's hope we can get a game against a club that we don't normally play. I think he understands it from a supporter's perspective as well as a player's perspective. And I certainly would not see any cup run being a distraction. And of course, that's without us having once this evening, we've mentioned it on several previous shows, that the fact that this is serious money, 50 grand for being on the telly. By the time you add in appearance, you appear winners money. The game tomorrow, if we win, is 120. You then get more just for being in the second round. And I think if you if you get through the second round, the guaranteed money, worst case scenario, is over £200,000 for Notts. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and that can potentially help out loosening any purse strings on that all-important January transfer window. Andy Eason, 9 subs tomorrow, going to be like sardines on the benches. Ian Cooksey, Martin is sending out the right message to fans, his players, and his owners. Indeed, I think it is. Gresham Maxwell's on the happy water as it's his anniversary. 6-1 to Notts tomorrow. Gazza question, Paul. Most memorable FA Cup Notts game? It was Spurs away for me, says Gazza. Most memorable FA Cup game. I tell you one that's always stuck in my mind, and I mentioned this to Rashid last week at the Raddy night, and I think Huxley and I think Raddy had left. It was the year when Larry Lloyd was manager, so we didn't have many highlights, and we were something like third or fourth round against Huddersfield away. And it got postponed about twice, and there were times when it was like due to be played on a Tuesday, got called off at like 2:00 on a Tuesday, put back to Wednesday, called off again. Anyway, eventually it was played, and it was the old Leeds Road ground, if you remember it. We were in green, the green with the yellow pinstripe, I think. We won possibly 2-1. I have never been wetter in a football game in my life. If you remember, those of us who were there, and I'm sure Cooksey and others will have been there, it absolutely rained cats and dogs. It was a completely open end, a bit like our old Cop used to be. And it threw it down for 90 minutes. But we won. And I just, I'm not saying that's the best result in the FA Cup we've had or anything like that. But if you're asking me memorable and just always one that kind of sticks in my mind, that would be one of them. Rosebery Man's evening to all the circulars. Steve Geldard, need to ship he's put Parvis. I was thinking as Derek made a comeback. Need to ship Jarvis and Traore out for game time and free up wages. I think this will all be a challenge for Richard Montague in January, won't it? It's one thing to bring players in, but I think we've got quite a big squad at the minute, and it would appear several of these players are not in the immediate consideration of Martin Patterson. Ian Haywood mentions Barry Cotter and El Joffrey as well. Steve Geldard adds, Spurs game for me. I think we were robbed of a semi that day. Bread and butter, Paul Harding, Nutter. Yeah, got done by Gaza, who stayed on the pitch. David, Amy, you cannot ship out loan players. This would all be in January, David, whether you can terminate loans. It's not normally great for loans if the player that you're loaning out is not playing football. The whole objective when you loan a player is for them to get game time. So normally you can broker an arrangement because clearly it's not really benefiting anyone at the moment. Steve Geldard. Martin reminds me of the managers of the good old days. Freddie Poke, evening, Paul. I reckon we will win 3-0 tomorrow. Clean sheet. I'm sure Martin and Kelleroos, if he's in goal, will be very happy with that. Ian Cooksey, I knew Ian would remember this. It was the 4th round away at Huddersfield. Threw it down all night. We were on an open cop. We do remember similarly, Ian. Colin Metcalf, we may have lost a lot of quality from last season, but I believe we are more equipped to negotiate these tricky cup ties. I'm hopeful without being overconfident. I also think there's been a sea change in mentality. Martin would probably call it culture. But without doubt, it is being drilled into the players that this is as important as any league game. I'm not totally sure that's how it's been either last year under Stuart Maynard or under Luke Williams, if I'm being really honest with you, or indeed before that with other managers. So we're long overdue something. Andy Easom, we went up on the rearranged football special train. Was there a train to that game, Andy? Crikey, coming back from Huddersfield late at night. I was my first job was at the Retford Times newspaper, and I remember going over with there are Retford Twigs of the Not Supporters Club which still listen to this show. Dave Gilsum and Paul Sexton, I think, were in the car that night. Gazzalee, I remember watching Notts away at Leeds Road, played second half in the Huddersfield away kit. Did we? Can't remember that. I'm sure you're right, Gazza. NCFC World, I would say Notts versus Man City. Taking on the financial giants is one I'll always remember. I'd forgotten about that one. That was a great occasion, the home game, wasn't it? 1-1. Mancini paid us the compliment of a pretty much full team, didn't he? And Ian Bishop, corner whipped in, went to the near post, flick header, roof of the net. Yeah, that was great. And I think it was Christian Pearce, wasn't it? He just lost Dzeko for a yard. Cross came in, low daisy cut a half volley into the net. And I think it was Dzeko's first goal or something. He hadn't scored after a big money move. But what that did mean, of course, is we got a day out at the Etihad, didn't we? Which, we got beat heavily. But again, it was really good. Ian Cooksey. I went on the train too to Huddersfield. It rained from the minute we left Notts to the minute we got back. Long walk from the station. But Chatwin, just 2 months to the transfer window. What types of players do you think we need? I think another keeper, at least as backup, a fast left winger, and a striker or two. Tim Watchorn, it's the FA Cup. Let's make sure we don the black and white. Be interesting to see whether in black and white or away. Sometimes there are sponsor relationships now that mean you play in your away kit away from home. But clearly, I guess if you're David James and you're paying the big bucks out, you want to see your brand on national television because that's, worth a few quid in sponsorship exposure, isn't it? That'd be interesting to see. Rosemary Mans, beware tomorrow. Brackley will go all out for 90 minutes. I suspect Brackley will have some decent former league players as well. Mark Stallard mentioned that he knows the Brackley manager, may not have spoken to him for a few years, but they were teammates at Shrewsbury together several years ago. Andy Eason remembers of Huddersfield. Pitch was a quagmire, but we got the win. Yeah, because I mean, it'd been postponed literally 2 or 3 times, hadn't it? Killer and Rash scored the goals in. I thought it was them. I wasn't 100% sure. And in the next round, John Chidozie scored one of the best goals I've ever seen, and not just at Notts. John Parnham, on a podcast I was watching yesterday, they were predicting shocks all round, but Notts were the exception. They decided that we have too much quality. Ian Cooksey, that game in Huddersfield kit was 89.90, yellow and black checks. So that probably means, Ian, we weren't in Huddersfield's away kit. I can't remember us playing in Huddersfield's away kit in that cup game. Bud Chatwin, Coventry FA Cup, as my mum, who was 88, it was her first match. Crikey. If the floodlights are poor tomorrow, says Ian Cooksey, we should play in stripes with the green kit. Gaza Lee, we'd gone to watch United versus Southampton, couldn't get in. I suggested get over to Huddersfield, got in at half time. They let us in the players' tunnel. Notts were 2-0 up at half time. We played in a red and black chessboard kit. I'll have to dig some photographs just to see what we were actually playing in. Whatever it was, we were all absolutely drenched. Colin Metcalf, what's everyone's thoughts on there not being replays anymore? I think it's disgraceful, as this was a big part of the magic for me, getting a big club back to your home ground. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because they've kind of changed the rules on playoffs depending what rounds of the competition it is. So I think I mentioned when I was down in Cornwall, Totton drew with Truro on the Saturday, and so the replay was at Truro. There was a replay on the Tuesday night, and that was extra time in the replay and penalties, and it was good theatre, you know. Oxlade Chamberlain, remember him at Notts? He missed one. Totton went through. So, you know, my point might be here that if we're expecting non-league clubs, you know, with more limited budgets, part-time players, to play extra, to play us a replay with extra time and then penalties, I get Premier League want to rule the roost and all the rest of it. There's no Premier League clubs into the FA until the third round. So why not FA Cups round 1 and 2, have a replay and have extra time and penalties in that replay? You might argue it makes it harder for the smaller clubs to go through. But equally, if a non-league club can nick a draw away at a league club, 90 minutes, doesn't then go to, at the minute, it now goes straight to extra time and pens. Under the old system, they will get a replay at their ground, you know, after 90 minutes. So for me, I'm a little surprised why you wouldn't do that. But anyway, it is what it is. Andy Eason, Nessie says we've been practicing the penalties. Yeah, I think that's, I didn't hear that interview, Andy, but Martin said they'd done all the requisite preparations, which I took to mean they'd been practicing penalties as well as part of the preparation for Saturday. Michael Lippy Jane, always replays for me. Yes, great to go to both grounds. Michael Fido, did I watch Derby beat Notts 6-0 in the FA Cup in the late 60s or early 70s, or did I dream it? Yeah, there was a 6-0. I think it was early 70s. I went. I'm trying to remember it. Derby were like a real top team at the time. But I think it was the FA Cup. Played him in the League Cup round about that time as well. right? The debate continues to rage on whether we did play in Huddersfield's away kit and whether it was yellow and black or red and black. We need to find some photos, preferably colour, of this game and post them on social media or whatever, and we can definitively nail this one. Steve Geldard, I think this was probably what we'd all of a certain vintage agree on this. Most disappointing FA Cup match was unquestionably Everton. That was the half volley header by Andy Gray. They beat us 2-1. Brian Kilcline later volunteered to me that he blamed himself for that. The cross came in, Andy Gray stooped onto the ground to literally half volley the ball with his head on the ground. And Killer said to me he'd had a pang of conscience in that split moment. He didn't think he could boot the ball and Andy Gray's head. The reality of the situation was that Andy Gray was literally on the ground heading the ball. But Killer kind of felt, I cannot just put my boot through his head. Anyway, the rest, as they say, is history. And also Steve Geldard mentions Salford. Yeah, that was a horrible night. Friday night. That was on BBC telly as well, wasn't it? Paul Cooksey, the game in the cup at Huddersfield in '84, we definitely played in the green with yellow pins. I thought we did, but we were all so wet anyway. Steve Geldard should have replays until round 3 at least, if not the 4th. Chris Gosling, I'm in the minority, I know, but I'm all for ties being decided on the day. Ian Cooksey, who's a fountain of all knowledge. Yes, Derby did beat us 6-0, and that was in the same year as they won the league. Well, not so much of a disgrace. I think I'm not sure if we were Division 3 or Division 2, probably Division 3 at that point. David Fitchett, there's a new name. Welcome, David. I remember going to the first home match after the Hillsborough disaster. That was Huddersfield, and they played in a yellow and black kit. Not cup, but another one for the mix. Steve Geldard, I watched Villa beat Notts 6-0 at Meadow Lane in the FA Cup. Yeah, but we did the double over them in the league, didn't we, Steve? I think we did. That was the year we won at home and we beat them down here. But in the cup, we were edged out in a 6-goal thriller. Gaza Lee, Huddersfield away. We're focusing a lot on that one. The Huddersfield away I saw was around 1989. That would have been later. We high-fived Warnock as we walked along the cinder track. Michael Fido is glad he didn't dream that 6-0 defeat by Derby. Richard Elvian, Hornchurch, just after Ian Birchinall had taken over. Not good. No, it wasn't. I'll tell you one thing I remember from that game, Richard. Do you remember it went to penalties? Hornchurch hadn't played for about 3 months, and this was for a place in the FA Trophy final, and it went to penalties. And do you remember the goalkeeping coach? Because there weren't many in the ground. No, none of us were in the ground. We were all watching it on the telly because of COVID. And just before their player took the first penalty or second penalty, our goalkeeping coach shouted out, everybody could hear it because it was an empty stadium, miss or something like that. And I think their bench erupted, and understandably so. And of course, Hornchurch won the penalty shootout. So that one didn't. We probably deserved what we got for that, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, you might get away with the shouting out when there's 5,000-10,000 in the ground, but when there was no one in the ground, it really kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. Andy Eason, I came past our new state-of-the-art training pitch at Highfields today. Nice new fencing surround, sprinklers on, looks ready to go. It is, of course, exactly the same place, Andy, I don't mean to be sceptical here, as where under Howard Wilkinson and Jimmy Cyril, we did all our training and prepared for our ascent to promotion to Division 1 at Highfields. on exactly the same piece of turf. Howard moved us. We were at Stoke Bardolph, if you remember, at the back of the sewage farm near the ferry boat inn. Used to play Midland Intermediate League games there on a Saturday morning. Used to get on my push bike and watch them, yeah, and then go back home and go to a home game, first team game in the afternoon. Ian Cooksey, Notts winning 3-2 at Leicester, 82-83 was a good away day. Great atmosphere, wasn't it? A bit lively. I remember going back on, there was a supporters train that day as well, wasn't there? I remember going back on that one. Stuart Jackson, Cloughie was manager when we lost 6-0. Wasn't sure whether it was Cloughie or Dave Mackay, but I'm sure you are right, Stuart. Anyway, we're coming up to 40 minutes. I've got to do my exercises. Oh, here's my crutches. There they are, look, or one of them. So I'm going to do my exercises in a minute. I've got to say the seat's giving me a bit of jip now. Sorry I cannot get along the day. I will be watching on the telly. To everyone that's going, enjoy the trip, enjoy the magic of the cup, and let's hope we can both enjoy and savour the FA Cup second round draw. Thank you one and all for listening in tonight. Thank you to our official partners, the Big Shed at the Trent Navigation and to JH Accountants. There'll be no vlog on the basis I'm not there, but I will, subject to being all right, be doing a Sunday morning supplement for you. Last messages. Ian Cooks, he says, where's the parrot? You mean the two magpies? I've got them. Look, they're hiding. They're here. Look. They're on every show. You have to look. You have to look. There's all little hidden messages in here somewhere on this screen. There they are. One for sorrow, two for joy, and I forget who it was, but a group of magpies is called a mischief. Okay, so I need to get a few more to have a mischief of them. Have a good evening all, says NCFC World. Come on, you pies, for tomorrow. Ian Cooksey, keep on the recovery trail, Paul. Take it easy. That just about wraps it up. Rosemary Mans, I agree that FA Cup ties should be decided on the day. So much football played these days, so it is for the best. Thank you very much, one and all. See you all on Sunday morning, and we'll be back with Stell on Monday evening. And then Tuesday, we have got the Virtue Trophy, where a win against Manchester United under-21s should take us through to the next round of that competition. Thanks, one and all. Look forward to catching up to you soon. Cheers for now. Bye-bye.